Candace Owens set social media ablaze, her words igniting a firestorm that crackled across the digital landscape like wildfire through dry brush. A single shocking statement from her lips sent shockwaves through the political sphere, shattering the fragile calm that had settled over the nation. For days, the world had seen Erica Kirk, Charlie Kirk's wife, as the epitome of a grieving widow, her face pale, etched with the raw agony of loss, her eyes glistening with unshed tears under the harsh glare of public scrutiny. But Candace, with her razor-sharp instincts and unyielding audacity, was about to flip that narrative upside down. She wasn't just questioning the story, she was tearing it apart stitch by stitch, insisting that the pieces didn't fit, that the truth was being smothered beneath layers of deception. And this time, Candace wasn't holding back. She pointed a trembling finger directly at the woman closest to Charlie Kirk, the man who had been her friend, her ally, her brother in arms in the conservative movement. The implication was seismic, a betrayal so personal, so raw, it felt ripped from the pages of a Hollywood thriller, the kind where the villain hides in plain sight, cloaked in tears and sympathy. The internet erupted. What had been a vague, faceless tragedy swirling in the ether of social media transformed overnight into something far more sinister, something that slithered into the heart of Charlie Kirk's inner circle. Whispers turned into roars as speculation took root. People began dissecting every detail, every moment, every glance. Strange inconsistencies in the timeline surfaced, gaps that didn't add up, questions that hung unanswered in the air like storm clouds. Rumors of secret motives tied to Charlie's private life began to fester, each one more tantalizing and terrifying than the last. Candace, by boldly challenging Erica's version of events, poured gasoline on the smoldering skepticism, fanning it into a blaze that consumed every corner of the internet. The question on everyone's lips wasn't just what happened to Charlie Kirk anymore. It had morphed into something darker, more insidious. Is the woman we've all seen weeping, the grieving widow draped in sorrow, hiding a secret so shocking it could unravel everything? What began as a mystery had twisted into a labyrinth of suspicion, a maze where every turn revealed a new shadow, a new doubt. The loudest mourner, the one whose tears had seemed the most genuine, was now the focal point of a growing storm. Was Erica Kirk truly a widow, shattered by grief? Or was she something else entirely? A master of deception, orchestrating a performance so convincing it had fooled the world. The tension was palpable, electric, crackling through every tweet, every post, every heated exchange in the comments. Social media became a battleground, a chaotic arena where conspiracy theories clashed with fervent defenses, where fingers were pointed and loyalties tested. The question haunting every corner of the internet was no longer just about who was behind Charlie's sudden departure. It was bigger, more personal. Was this a calculated move by shadowy political forces? Or was it the ultimate betrayal served cold at the family dinner table? I forgive him. Those three words, cryptic and heavy, echoed through the chaos like a ghostly refrain. They came from Erica Kirk, a phrase that seemed to hang in the air, laden with meaning no one could fully decipher. In the wake of Charlie's departure, those words sparked a frenzy. Online debates exploded, venomous and unrelenting. People lost their jobs for daring to weigh in, their careers collateral damage in the war of words. Students faced suspensions for posting their takes, their futures caught in the crossfire of a story that refused to stay contained. And then, just when it seemed the drama couldn't spiral any further, a twist emerged that no one saw coming. A twist so jarring, it sent the internet into a tailspin. Rumors began to swirl, whispers that slithered through the dark corners of online forums. The police, it was said, had a suspect in custody, a name they were keeping tightly under wraps. But another name kept creeping into the conversations, a name that sent chills down spines and set tongues wagging: Erica Kirk. The woman who had stood before the world, her face a mask of devastation, was now being whispered about as a possible player in this tragedy. The idea was unthinkable, yet it took root like a weed, spreading faster than anyone could contain. What if Erica wasn't just a mourner, What if she was entangled in the very heart of this catastrophe? Her tears a facade hiding something far more sinister? The internet went feral. Social media feeds became a battleground, with conspiracy threads sprouting like mushrooms after a storm. Hashtags trended, then vanished, only to be replaced by new ones, each more inflammatory than the last. Fans of Charlie Kirk, once united in their grief, were now divided, some clinging to the image of Erica as a heartbroken widow, others convinced she was the key to unlocking a darker truth. Everyone, it seemed, was starving for answers, for a shred of clarity in a story that grew murkier by the hour. And into this maelstrom stepped Candace Owens, not with a whisper, but with a roar that shook the foundations of the narrative. On September 18th, Candace took to Instagram, dropping a bombshell so explosive it left the internet stunned into silence, if only for a moment. In a post that crackled with urgency, she accused those closest to the story of burying critical details about Charlie Kirk's death. "This isn't just a tragedy," she declared, her voice steady but laced with fire. "This is a cover-up, a conspiracy that goes deeper than anyone wants to admit." In an instant, the narrative spun on its axis, veering into uncharted territory. Candace wasn't just joining the conversation, she was rewriting it, reshaping it into something bigger, something that demanded attention. To drive her point home, Candace invoked a haunting image from the Bible, the kind that lingers in the mind long after it's spoken. She referenced the young man on the cross, Jesus Christ, who said, "Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do." Then, in a move that sent shivers through her audience, she echoed Erica's cryptic phrase, "I forgive him." The words hung in the air, heavy with implication. Was Candace suggesting that Erica's forgiveness was a clue, a coded message masking a deeper truth? Or was she using it to cast doubt on the entire narrative, to paint Erica as a figure whose motives were anything but pure? Whatever her intent, the effect was instantaneous. The internet erupted anew, with theories multiplying like sparks from a bonfire. Candace didn't stop there. She plunged into the case with the fervor of a citizen detective, no longer content to be a mere commentator. She was on a mission, a one-woman crusade to uncover the truth. She rallied her millions of followers, urging them to dig, to question, to share anything that might shed light on the incident. "I watched my friend get shot in the neck," she said in one particularly gut-wrenching post, her words raw and unfiltered. "He was publicly executed before the world." The question isn't just who did it, it's why her voice trembled with conviction, and her followers responded in droves, flooding her inbox with tips, theories, and grainy photos that promised to unlock the mystery. Then came the moment that turned the story into a full-blown phenomenon. Candace claimed that a group of students at Utah Valley University had sent her a photo, a single image that, according to them, could be tied to the incident. She didn't reveal its contents, not yet, but the mere mention of it was like tossing a grenade into an already volatile situation. The internet exploded, with users demanding to see the photo, speculating about its significance and dissecting every possible angle. Was it a smoking gun, a red herring, or something else entirely? Candace, ever the master of suspense, kept her cards close, letting the anticipation build until it was almost unbearable. The drama escalated when Candace seized on a theory that had been circulating on XNet, a platform known for its unfiltered, often chaotic discussions. The theory was bold, audacious, and divisive. Just 1 hour after Charlie Kirk's death, a private plane had taken off from Provo, Utah, under suspicious circumstances. What made the story electrifying was the claim that the plane had turned off its transponder mid-flight, an act that aviation experts described as highly unusual, almost unheard of outside of deliberate intent. The internet buzzed with questions. Was it a coincidence? A technical glitch? Or was it, as Candace suggested, evidence of something far more sinister? A connection to Charlie's death that someone wanted to keep hidden. Candace didn't just share the theory, she amplified it, repeating it across her platforms with a fervor that bordered on obsession. On Instagram, she posted a series of stories, each one hammering home the strangeness of the plane's behavior. Jetliners don't just turn off their transponders, she said, her voice sharp with certainty. I spoke to someone in the aviation industry, and they told me this is against protocol. It's not normal. It's not random. Her words were like a match to kindling, igniting a firestorm of speculation that spread faster than anyone could contain. Her supporters hailed her as a fearless truth-teller, the only one brave enough to challenge a narrative the mainstream media wouldn't touch. Her critics, meanwhile, were merciless, accusing her of turning Charlie's tragedy into clickbait, of fanning the flames of conspiracy for clout. But the story didn't stop there. It took a turn so bizarre, so unexpected, that even the most seasoned observers were left reeling. Whispers began to circulate that investigators were quietly looking at Erica Kirk as a person of interest. The rumors were vague at first, but they gained traction with alarming speed. Why? Because Erica's behavior after Charlie's death had raised red flags. First, there was her sudden disappearance from social media, a stark contrast to her polished public-facing persona as the wife of a conservative firebrand. When she finally resurfaced, her demeanor was off, almost robotic. Her speeches were stiff, her words carefully measured, lacking the raw emotion one might expect from a grieving widow. "Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do," she said at one public appearance, echoing the biblical phrase Candace had seized upon. But to many, it didn't sound like a plea for forgiveness. It sounded like a performance, a calculated act that left an uneasy chill in its wake. Then came the whispers about financial troubles and family disputes. Sources close to the Kirk family hinted at tensions simmering beneath the surface, debts that had piled up, arguments that had grown heated in the months before Charlie's death. The speculation was relentless. Was Erica truly a widow mourning her husband, or was she playing a role in a much larger, more dangerous game? Candace, never one to shy away from controversy, pounced on the opportunity. On her personal page, she posted a scathing indictment. "I've spent hours piecing together the timeline of Charlie Kirk's passing, and I'm convinced this is a federal conspiracy. There's no other explanation. They're lying to us." Her words were a lightning bolt, splitting the internet into two camps: those who believed she was onto something monumental and those who saw her as a provocateur spinning baseless theories for attention. The lack of concrete evidence didn't slow Candace down. If anything, it fueled her fire. She doubled down, rallying her followers to keep digging, to keep questioning. But the absence of proof only deepened the divide. For every supporter who saw her as a beacon of truth, there was a skeptic calling her reckless, accusing her of exploiting a tragedy for personal gain. The controversy didn't just dominate social media, it bled into real life with consequences that rippled far beyond the screen. Families were torn apart, friendships shattered, as people took sides in a story that refused to stay contained. To understand the weight of Candace's crusade, you have to understand her history with Charlie Kirk. They weren't just colleagues, they were comrades, bound by a shared vision and a relentless drive to reshape the conservative movement. When Candace joined Turning Point USA in 2017, she called Charlie her brother, a bond forged in the crucible of political battles and public scrutiny. They stood shoulder to shoulder, their voices amplified by shared stages and shared ideals. But by late 2023, cracks had begun to appear. Candace's public clashes with pro-Israel voices during the Gaza conflict sent shockwaves through the conservative establishment, creating a rift that culminated in her departure from the Daily Wire in March 2024. Now, less than a year later, she was at the center of a firestorm, not just questioning Charlie's death, but casting suspicion on those closest to him, including his wife. The drama reached a fever pitch at Charlie Kirk's funeral, held at State Farm Stadium in Glendale, Arizona. Thousands gathered, expecting a solemn farewell to a conservative titan. Tucker Carlson delivered a heartfelt eulogy, his voice thick with emotion. Erica Kirk stood before the crowd, her face a mask of grief, her words measured but heavy with loss. But one absence was impossible to ignore: Candace Owens. The woman who had called Charlie her brother, who had fought alongside him for years, was nowhere to be seen. The omission was glaring, a wound that refused to be ignored. Candace didn't stay silent for long. On X, she posted a cryptic message that sent shockwaves through her audience. Attended Mass, then took my kids to see The Light of the World, a movie about Jesus. Came home, cooked dinner, listened to Tucker share the story of Christ, a perfect day. And Erica Kirk? She's such a wonderful example of the love of Christ. The sarcasm dripped from her words, sharp and unmistakable. While thousands mourned Charlie in person, Candace watched from the sidelines, her absence a statement louder than any speech. Days later, on her podcast, she dropped another bombshell: she hadn't been invited to the funeral. According to Candace, Erica Kirk and a handful of Turning Point USA's biggest donors had deliberately excluded her, shutting her out of the inner circle she had once called family. The image was gut-wrenching. A woman who had stood by Charlie's side for years, relegated to watching his memorial from her living room, her voice silenced by those she had once trusted. But Candace, true to form, didn't let the slight go unanswered. She fired back on social media with her signature blend of wit and venom. "There's a % chance I'll be there. Funny, they say it like you can buy tickets to a funeral. When I'm questioning the feds, maybe skipping a public event they're overseeing is the smart move." She ended with a line that was half joke, half defiance. "I'm fine. I'll listen through my headphones and watch the morning show instead." The post was like a match dropped into a powder keg. Social media erupted once again, with the fractured relationship between Candace and Erica becoming the new focal point. To some, Candace was a hero, a lone voice daring to challenge a narrative shrouded in secrecy. To others, she was a villain, exploiting a family's grief to fuel her brand of conspiracy-fueled outrage. The divide grew wider, more vicious, with every passing day. Then came the bombshell that shook the story to its core. Reports surfaced, quietly at first, then with growing urgency, that Charlie's own parents were beginning to question Erica's role in the tragedy. No longer just whispers from the fringes, these doubts came from the heart of the Kirk family, from the people who had known Charlie best. Behind closed doors, they were said to have expressed reservations about Erica's behavior, her silence, her cryptic statements. The fallout between Erica and Candace had only deepened their suspicions, turning a private family matter into a public spectacle. Sources close to the Kirks revealed a detail that sent shockwaves through the story. In the weeks before Charlie's death, his family had distanced themselves from Erica, communicating only through intermediaries. The once close-knit family was unraveling, fractured by doubt and distrust. On one side, Erica's defenders, friends, relatives, and allies insisted she was a victim, a widow unfairly targeted by a vicious internet mob. Her silence, they argued, was the natural response of a woman grappling with unimaginable loss, not a sign of guilt. On the other side, Candace's supporters saw her as a truth seeker, a warrior unafraid to confront the powerful forces they believed were behind Charlie's death. Into this fray stepped Pastor Rob McCoy, co-chair of Turning Point USA's Faith Division and one of Charlie's closest confidants. His voice carried weight, not just as a pastor, but as a man who had walked beside Charlie through the highs and lows of his career. In a statement that cut through the noise, McCoy didn't hold back. He rebuked Candace directly, accusing her of turning Charlie's death into a spectacle. "Charlie was Candace's friend," he said, his voice steady but heavy with emotion. "He never spoke ill of her, never turned his back on her, even when they disagreed. I only wish Candace could be Charlie's friend now in this time of grief, the way he was hers. He would never have let this tragedy become a weapon." McCoy's words landed like a thunderclap, reshaping the narrative once again. For many, Candace was no longer the fearless whistleblower. She was a provocateur using a family's pain to fuel her own agenda. Critics seized on McCoy's rebuke, arguing that Candace had crossed a line, that her relentless speculation was tearing open wounds that had barely begun to heal. But Candace, as always, refused to back down. Instead, she leaned in, pivoting her focus to a new target, Bill Ammon, a billionaire hedge fund magnate who, according to Candace, had clashed with Charlie in a heated argument just weeks before his death. On her podcast, Candace dropped the accusation like a bomb. Bill Ammon was angry. Threats were made. That's what I heard. She paused, letting the weight of her words sink in, then added, "And I'd love for Bill to come argue with me about this." The claim was explosive, sending shockwaves through the conservative world and beyond. Ammon fired back, denying the allegations with a fury that matched Candace's own. Baseless, dangerous, and misleading, he called her claims, demanding she retract them. Andrew Colt, executive producer of The Charlie Kirk Show, echoed Ammon's outrage, warning that Candace's accusations were damaging the reputations of everyone involved. But the damage was done. Candace's words had spread like wildfire, leaping from social media to mainstream outlets that could no longer ignore the story. Newspapers and cable news shows, usually hesitant to touch Candace's brand of controversy, began covering the allegations, raising the question, was Candace defending Charlie's legacy, or was she tearing it apart in her quest for answers? The Kirk family, already fractured, was caught in the crossfire, their private grief transformed into a public battleground where loyalty, truth, and power collided. As the storm raged on, one thing became clear. Candace Owens had taken a whisper of doubt and turned it into a roar that echoed across the globe. The Kirk family, once a symbol of unity, was now a house divided, torn apart by suspicion and grief. Inside their home, tensions simmered, with some urging Erica to speak out, to confront Candace head-on, while others warned that any response would only fuel the fire. The world watched, breathless, as the saga unfolded, each new twist adding fuel to a story that refused to die. What do you think? Is Candace Owens a fearless crusader uncovering a hidden truth? Or is she a provocateur dragging a grieving family into chaos? The answer isn't clear, and the story is far from over. A new revelation could drop at any moment, and when it does, it's sure to shake the foundations of this already explosive saga. Stay tuned, because this storm shows no signs of slowing down.